Anti-Semitism is so deep and it's so rooted in the Arab-speaking world that once you speak Arabic, you've been injected in anti-Semitic notions, no matter where you are, no matter what you do. The Arabic culture today, it's so embedded in the Arabic speaking world that even the Arabic language contains anti Semitic notions, like we are soaked in anti Semitism. Unfortunately, this is the reality.
Our guest today has one of the most unique voices in the Middle East. Khalifa Khalifa is an Israeli Druze, a former IDF Special Forces soldier, a tech entrepreneur, podcast host, and one of the most outspoken voices warning the world about what is happening to the Druze people. He lives between worlds. He is Arab, but fiercely pro-Israel. He is Druze, but deeply connected to the Jewish people. He speaks Hebrew, Arabic, and English, and understands the Middle East from the inside in a way very few people do. For years, Khalifa warned that the Druze of Syria were in danger. Then the massacres came, Sueda was attacked, families were slaughtered, villages were burned, thousands were displaced. And while much of the world looked away, Israeli Druze and Jews began asking a painful question. Are we watching another October 7th, but this time against the Druze? Today, we're going to discuss the untold alliance between Druze and Jews, why so many Druze choose Israel, what October 7th revealed, what is really happening in Syria, whether a Druze autonomous region is now inevitable, and why Khalifa believes the West still does not understand the threat facing all three societies. Khalifa, welcome.
Thank you for your kind words, and I'm really glad to be here. Thank you, Daniel.
Likewise. Khalifa, why did the Druze choose Israel when so many others in the region choose to be enemies, choose hatred instead?
It is surprising how Zionist the Druze are, but I really want to address things that you mentioned because, for me as an Israeli Druze, it wasn't always that I knew what's happening with the Jews in Syria and Lebanon. I conceived myself as an Israeli. It was only after October 7 when I really started, strengthening my attachments to the Druze community, because we are like a beehive. We somehow are connected, and I still had friends from Lebanon, from Syria, but I didn't have a really daily connection with them. And I was surprised about the Druze Syrian people, how Zionist they are. Like they, by proxy, by how we Israeli Druze introduced Israel to them, they fell in love with Israel because there was a huge gap between what they heard about the Israeli state, the Jewish state, and what they met while speaking to people like me who grew up in a sovereign state, something that they never received or actually witnessed. And I started noticing that the Syrian Druze are facing what I conceived as, immediate threat to their existence. For us, the Druze, we only like 1.5 million in whole the Middle East. We're not such a large community, and you cannot become Druze as well. It's only a birth-giving right. So our motto is live and let be. Like if you accept us in our differences, then you will see only honey from us. But if you'll try and come and kill us, then you will have to meet the sting. And we sting real bad because we are fierce fighters. This is why Israel loves us, because we have the highest rates of volunteering to combat units among all Israeli sects, including Jewish people. We are so keen to serve in the IDF, even more than the average Israeli, which is amazing. When I met this danger, because, at the time, Syria in a civil war that has tons of terror groups, we name it Syria, but it's not a state. It's even still not a state. It's like a bunch of, Mad Max country on steroids. Everybody are trying to kill everybody, and the Jews had the privilege to be in a high mountains where they can somehow keep their peace. But in middle of that whole crisis, you could see that year by year, the life of the Sweda province, where the Druze are, is being extracted out, and people are fleeing for all different places. And for us leaving our land, it's like the most unspeakable thing that you can do. We really love this land, the land of Israel. People now call the Sweda province the Bashan province. They reopened the biblical name of the place, so we are deeply attached to it. And for me, witnessing this thing and seeing the scale of it, of how many people are leaving Sweden and facing extermination, basically, because our whole culture is endangered here. And for me, there was a question that I've lately seen the Netflix film by Einstein and the Bomb. And once he fled the Nazi Germany, people came to him and said that he needs to speak out while he was in exile in the UK. And he really was afraid because he still had a family, and he was afraid that the Nazi Germany is gonna punish him for speaking out. And the convoy that came to ask him to speak out told him, yes, this is what the Nazis are already doing. So speaking out will not make it worse. It will only show the scale of the problem. And this is why I quit everything that I did before that and devoted my life to speak out for the Druze people. Sorry if that was like a large introduction, but for me as a Druze, I feel deeply connected to our Jewish people who survived the Holocaust. For me, as an endangered ethnic indigenous group, I feel the same. Something is me as an Israeli Druze uh, feels for the Jewish community that survived the Holocaust. I can understand, feel it in my bones. Once the greater society will wake up one day and will tell you it is wrong to be who you are simply because who you are. Somehow that threatens their life or their existence, and see you as a threat just for being yourself. So I can feel it. This is my approach to this whole thing. And you can see why I think that Jews and Druze are basically in the same trenches, fighting for our existence, for our survival, and making it from a surviving mode to flourish mode, because we both are cultures that are pro-life, unlike the communities that we share lands and space with, unfortunately.
Can you tell me a little bit about your upbringing in Israel and your time in the army, and how that was for you as a Druze soldier? And maybe we can expound on that a little bit.
Yeah, okay. So basically, I grew up in the 90s, which wasn't like the nicest era to live in, because that was the happy days of suicide bombers. And between once and and then you could have some news of a girl that from your village was exploded by going to school in terrorist attacks. And we used to laugh about it, but every time we saw a bus going, then we closed our ears and like laughed. Maybe this time it's gonna explode, or the next time we would never know. And I really felt it in my bones. But the strange thing is that, culturally speaking, I'm Arab. So the people who were my enemy, I had this huge common ground with: the same music, the same cartoons, the same animation movies, or all of that. So I felt I have immediate approach to them, but they want to kill me for being an Israeli. Something that, if you think about it, I never had a say in it. Like if you the philosophical point of view, like, I was born here, so what I'm guilty of. And because I had a Jewish teacher in eighth grade that she was the daughter of a Holocaust survivor, as I told you, I felt this notion in my bones. So I had no question that I'm going to be a combat soldier and I want to be a hero. And, you know, in my years, I participated in IDF soldiers' funerals. So for us Druze who believe in reincarnation, basically the word in Arabic means, it sounds very similar to camiseta, if you know, in Spanish, which means like a shirt. So we basically think of the body as a shirt that in this life you live in one shirt and then you exchange it with another, and that's how you can go from life to life. So the way we bury our dead, we don't have tombstones, and there's no, memorial to go and do some sort of a pilgrimage or whatever that is to talk to your lost person, because he's already was born in a different life, in a different family, etc. But with the exception of the Israeli Druze soldiers who have their cemetery with, with all the honor and all the parades of, the funeral. There's a lot of how do you say it? Like it's a position to be in, like to participate in something like that. It's something with a scale that means a lot. So for me, I said that I want to be an Israeli IDF hero. I'm gonna be in the best unit that I could serve in, but I didn't know much about the IDF. So once I got to the army, I volunteered for OKETS, which is a K9 Special Forces unit. I was the first Druze to be in this unit to finish the course, and I finished with exception. And after that, for me, like being a sole Druze with the community of, a pack of alpha males, all, the best of the best of what Israel have to offer, that really made me see how I can explore my true potential about things. This is why I went and lived in Tel Aviv, studied philosophy over there, studied the Middle Eastern studies and journalism. And for me, it was, I felt that I have the extra gift that I know our enemies. I know them well. I speak to them. I know how to approach them. So for me, the Israeli Arab conflict, it's like an enigma. It's like a puzzle. You know, ever since I was a small child, a lot of people did put a lot of effort to try to solve it, and nobody did. And always it seemed so complicated and, nuanced. And for me, it was puzzling. And after I finished my service in my reserves, I started doing more intelligence work. I did OSINT, and I was fascinated about the Gazan case. So for me, it became personal when on October 7, I saw how people, the common good people of Gaza, strolling around in my base home, which was on Erez in the north side of Gaza, seeing people killing soldiers and beheading soldiers in the place where I sat and smoked with friends and had laughs. So for me, it was like a matter of a chance that I could be there and slaughtered over there, and what kind of treatment for me as Druze I will have. And that made me really depressed, to be honest, because even starting COVID, I start seeing it that, we are dealing with international inflation and with international anti-Semitism. And the last time we had that in history, it led to we know what. So for me, the anti-Semitism is like the canary in the coal mine. Once people start putting their hatred toward Jews, then you can see that the world is sick. And it's like once you're sick, you'll get a fever. That's the fever of our world. This is how I saw it. And I saw the lack of leadership. For me, the phenomena of COVID was truly baffling. If I took you in 2018 and I said, what you gonna say if I'm gonna tell you that in matter of months China will do something, and then once it will say to the whole world, stand on your left foot, 3, 2, 1, stand on your left foot, and boom, you'll have the whole world complying to what China did, you'll say that I'm a mad person. But once I saw that the whole world went with what China had to offer, then I felt something is really wrong. Like nobody actually challenged this point of view. And for me, it was like scary. So I start speaking out about it. So the eve of October 7, my physical fitness was better than what I had when I used to be in the army, like 18 years before. Because for me, I said like months before, they're not gonna catch me unprepared for it, whatever that is. I felt it that something big is gonna happen. And when October 7 happened, that made me really depressed. And I felt like I tried to speak out. I tried to say how, those Arabs are Nazis. They are using a lot of religious jargon, but they are Nazis. The way they see us is like Nazis saw us. And for us, with all the liberal ideas, we actually in Israel, we did refuse to see it the way it was. And it was really frustrating. And after that, I start speaking more and more with Druze people, especially in Sweden. And for me, that was very comforting, like saying, okay, there's a lot of bad things happening in the world. There's a lot of things that is not under my control. That's going to make me really depressed. I'm not going to focus on that. I'm going to focus on what's do work and try to endorse it. I don't know, a bit a day. And this is why I start really exploring the relationship and the bond between the Druze and Jews. And that surprised me how deep that is, and how the Druze can partake a real role here in the Middle East that gonna change the whole area in my view.
Now, as you said, you served in the IDF, and in the IDF, you saw terror, you fought against evil. So when you saw October 7th, when did you realize that this wasn't just another terror attack, that this was something civilizational, that this was something much bigger than that? Maybe take us through where you were exactly on October 7th and how you felt going through that and seeing that in real time.
Wow. So, as I said, I served in an intelligence as a reserve soldier, and our front was Gaza, the Gaza Strip. So I knew all about it. Prior to October 7, the eve of the October 7, I consumed zero Israeli news outlet. I don't know anything about what's happening in the news with Israel. All my perception about the war comes from Telegram channels, especially from the Arab speaking world in Gaza, particularly. And for the strangest thing, I woke up that day a bit late. I had like a cool party the day before, and I was enjoying my life. And I woke up, start cleaning the house, and doing my like a normal Sabbath thing. And it wasn't really that normal for me not to check my phone the first thing that I do when I wake up. But this is what I did that day. And after a while, I checked out my phone. It was like 10 a.m. and I see these weird messages that I'm getting from several friends. I see that there's something's going on, and I open my Telegram channel, and we don't want to. I don't want to really speak about it, but like I stayed there for like 3 minutes just to check out what is happening. And the images that I saw was so horrific. It was terrifying, just, seeing the sheer excitement of the ordinary people of Gaza cheering out and thrilled and happy about seeing how and what they were doing to us Israelis. And it didn't matter if we were soldiers or old people or little kids, it didn't matter. You could feel and see the hatred. And then I remember I just threw my phone because I know I had nothing to do with it at the moment, and I just went on for a stroll, knowing that the big thing that I foresaw before is happening. I know it's gonna change. Like, it is a huge thing. That came immediately. I knew that this something is not like a terror attack. You could see in those 3 minutes that I spent there, I knew it's like a huge thing, something that we'd never seen before. I don't know what is happening. And I went for a walk just to try to relax myself. And then I got real paranoid because I said, oh, okay, so this is what's happening in Gaza. They are coming for me from Hezbollah, from Lebanon. So I got like really panicked. I went back home and did some Molotov cocktails, bottles, and tried to weaponize my home basically because I didn't know where it's gonna come and from what. And it took me several days to calm myself down. But yeah, it was really intense. And unfortunately, like, I witnessed the same feelings last year when the Druze suffered the heinous massacre that those Islamists and those ISIS terrorists did to my people in Sweden.
What do you think October 7th revealed about Hamas, about the Palestinian people, about Gaza? Did it change the way you saw the situation until then?
Well, although, I knew those guys, and I knew they mean business, but knowing it is something and witnessing it is something else. It made me really angry, and for me, it framed the whole Gaza Strip. Like, until that moment, I've seen, there's some normal people in Gaza. They are in this unbelievable reality and they basically are prisoners. After that moment, and I said, fuck it, I'm not gonna give them this doubt, the benefit of the doubt, simply because this is their choosing. This is what they chose. I know I can't, judge someone whose minister of education is someone who invented suicide bombers. I know that I can't judge them, but still, this is their choosing. This is what they did. And for me as an Israeli, became really clear, like bipolar clear. It's either with us or against us. There's two ideologies, two ways of thinking, two philosophies or two beliefs, set of beliefs that they cannot coexist. It's either us or them. It's as simple as that. I didn't, create this reality. It is what it is. And after putting that aside, that made my whole point of view. And this is why a lot of people I feel connected to what I'm saying because it speaks to them. And this is why after October 7, I shifted, and became crystal clear of what I do. Just to put like in a word what I do in my Telegram channel. I don't know if you know, but I take a lot of media outlets from the Arab speaking world and I just put subtitles to it just to give the people of Israel who doesn't speak Arabic, just to give them a glimpse of how people around us see themselves, see us, how they ask themselves questions, what answers do they give. And a lot of those things, it makes people like in a aha feeling. They can't believe how, Nazis and anti-Semites our enemies could be. And on the other hand, they are really like their minds blown away of how Zionist Druze are. After the events last year, you could see so many Israeli flags, people drone and tried to do in whatever they could just to do the Magen David and the two blue stripes and put it on their cars and put it on, painting it on all over the place. You could see so many Israeli flags, more than, an average Israeli settlement here, especially Arab speaking ones. So for me, it is amazing. In midst of this whole crazy, crazy situation, there's few points of light that if we endorse it, then it's gonna shed and chase out a lot of darkness.
Now, many Druze ran towards the fight on October 7th. What does that say about your people? Did October 7th strengthen the Druze and Jewish alliance? Do you think, it was always strong, but did it become stronger?
Yeah, definitely. And in a way, I knew some of them. I knew some of them who were in a study vacation in their, university. They basically went to their unit and nobody told them to come, and went and cleared the Gaza Strip envelope settlements like Be'eri and Nahal Oz and all those places. And I could not sit without admiring those heroes, that went straight to the fire. And just as a reminder, I don't know how, well how much your people, your audience know about what's happening in the Israeli politics. But the eve of October 7th, we had like a milchemet achim, like a civil war atmosphere, leftist and rightist and all those demonstrations. And the Druze were no exception in this regard. We also had, a full stomach about what's happening with us as a second class citizens. This is the whole, this is the slogan that people used to say everywhere, that the Druze, they give the most and get the least, and we're not treated so well. So we were in this atmosphere. And once in Arabic there's a saying that says عند الامتحان يكرم المرء. Of a test, you show your true self. You could be honored or you could be disgraced. And for me, the Druze people manifested its most beautiful image on the days of October 7. Like for me, my family, for example, we had a catering business, and once the war started, you know how it is. That means the business got out of the window. But even still, my mother and the whole workers sat for days doing pastries and sending food to the front lines to try to do whatever we can to show that we are all together in this thing. And it was a beautiful sight to see. Even now, when I start even try to imagine those days, I get really excited, because it is really touching to see the beautiful, beautiful place and people of Am Israel. I have no word to see it in the diversities. Even, you know what? Even Muslims that serve in the Israeli Muslims on the second day of October 7, on Sunday, there were terrorists that were still back in the south, and some of them came and went to like an Arab city, a Bedouin Arab city, all Muslims. And these kind of cities, they also have blood connections. Like there are families that could be from Gaza, and the other family is in the Israeli side. For example, Ismail Haniyeh's sister, Ismail Haniyeh was the head of Hamas in Gaza. His sister was married to Israeli Muslim Bedouin, okay? So, and they have a lot of siblings. So those terrorists came and seeked refuge in this Rahat because they thought that the local Muslims are gonna give them shelter, and those people gave them to the police, and it was really beautiful to see, and that puts a lot of hope that although there's a lot of darkness and a lot of evil that we are facing, there's also a lot of good that we all share as Israelis.
What is the situation now in Syria for the Druze people? Do they trust the leader at all? And anything that you've heard that recently about it?
Well, they don't trust the leader, and they know what is their leader doing, what is his agenda. And the reason we know that, because the leader Abu Muhammad Julani, other than being from, moving from Al Qaeda to ISIS and, re- recreating himself in a different phases and different phases in his life, he used to rule in Idlib, the northern part of Syria, and he did for like 13 or 14 years. And we had a small Druze community living in there, the northwest Druze community in the world, and it was like a very isolated and special community near to the Turkish border, and that community was exterminated. We today, they forced them to marry the jihadists because Druze, when they feel unsafe dealing with Muslims, because the Muslims hate us Druze more than the Jews. And why is that? Because on the times of Muhammad, he knew there's like a textbook how to deal with Christians and Jews, whom he knew, he met, he knows what that is. And the Druze who basically historically came out from Islam and abolished Islam and the holy text of the Quran, that contradicts the prophecy that someday the whole world is going to be Muslim. This is what Muslims always try to do, either by force, trying to force you to Islam, or trying, to show the beautiful face of Islam, and by that somehow to convince you to convert to Islam. Every Muslim have this tendency to try to, in a way, make you Muslim. So for them, meeting us, the Druze, who said, okay, thank you, but I prefer it in my way, in a different way. And on top of that, I'm going to tell you, like, it's a secret religion. You can't really read it. You can't really approach or debate whatever that is. You keep your religion. I will keep mine. Everything is okay. That simple thing is unbearable for the Islamist mind. And this is why when Julani occupied the northern part of Syria, or Idlib, he came to the Druze community, and they said, well, we are, Muslims like you, but with a different interpretation. That's all. Like, they try to stay low, but what happened is that Julani forced his jihadists to marry Druze women because he knew that Druze could only marry Druze, and by this way he can, tear apart the community. And unfortunately, he succeeded. Like, we only have from 14 to 50,000 Druze people, maybe 2,000, 3,000. Most of them are dead. A lot of them fled the country, and we basically rarely hear about them. So what's happening now is the Druze are in a position that they are not allowed to say that thank you, but we prefer that we will keep our own sovereignty. We've been our own sovereign people for the past 14 years. You are trying to force us to submit to Syria, but thank you. I've seen it. Like, I've been in a first dictatorship. I'm not gonna replace that with other dictatorship. You're not gonna convince me doing that. So what's happening is that the Druze in Bashan area, which is the largest concentration of Druze people in the world, like 700,000 Druze people are living there. They are very isolated. They are sitting like in a huge mountain area, but this place is controlled by only two roads, one to Sueda, Damascus, and one is Sueda, Dar'a, which basically means that they are under the mercy of all the looters and all the Bedouins and all those people who been so used to make their living by looting other communities. So this is why it is really frustrating for the Druze people because they are connected to the Syrian state. They are not connected with Israel, so they don't have like a real blood life of oxygen. So they are in a very delicate place. Meanwhile, Israel is fighting in Iran, in Lebanon, in all those different fronts, and they are feeling a bit like left behind, but still holding a lot of hope. Just a reminder, the aftermath of what happened exactly a year ago are like 4,000 people are dead, 35 villages who were occupied, and people are not allowed to go back to their villages. So we have a lot of displaced people, tens of thousands of displaced people living in schools, in public spaces, in tents. We, the Israeli Druze, really try to help them, with medication or whatever that is, or with aid, but still, we can't, keep them alive all the time. They need a proper life. And in top of this, like you can see, there's a real pressure to try to make them fight each other and make it as most inconvenient for them to conduct their lives, just to try to push them down to submit to this ISIS state. And if they didn't have us as Israeli Druze, they would have been in a whole different place now, and another good one.
Does it surprise you that the West, President Trump, gives al Julani legitimacy? As you said, he was a terrorist. And now he puts on a suit, and as if they used to have like a bounty on him, that he was a wanted man. But now they seem to treat him like any other leader. Do you think, why are they doing this? And do you think that they're making a big mistake by treating him this way?
Well, why they are doing it? Because I think somehow it feels like it puts things to order. I don't give what is happening in Syria. We have this guy, then let him be. And there were a lot of pressure coming from Gulf states saying that this guy, they're vouched for this guy. And I'm gonna surprise you with my answer. I don't think that it is a bad thing that Julani is where he is, because he lives in an ISIS state and you need an ISIS leader to control those extremists. And if he have enough power to make his beasts and the non-human people that, tore apart people's hearts and ate them and filmed themselves doing that. So if he have the capability of doing so, then it is a good thing if we come to a decent agreement with him. And the decent agreement is that Israel and Syria cannot have like a mutual border. We need to have a buffer state, a Druze buffer state that push them away from us, and then it could give like a strategic depth to Israel. So I don't think it is a bad thing that he's there, but I think that yes, Trump did a mistake, like a huge mistake, basically. First mistake is that he put Tom Barak as his special person for Syria, and he did a lot of damage. He's like more pro-Turkish, and Turkish is Julani, which means Qatar, and means the Muslim Brotherhood. And though, like, we are, we didn't finish in a 3-year war. A big mistake in Gaza, which is only 365 kilometers, and now they are building like times 3,000, like 180,000 uh, kilometers of big Gaza state with navy, with air force, with all this thing. And in top of that, Trump comes and shakes his hand and puts some some cologne on him. The way they see it in Arabic, that this is a proof that ISIS is the way, and God opened the eyes and heart of Mr. Trump, and now he submits to Islam. He knows that he should put in cologne in order to Julani and not vice versa, which is a crazy thing to do. And the rapidness, like the speed that this thing happened, was truly amazing. Like you cannot come and try to shorten things up. Things should take a proper time, and for me, I think it was a huge mistake for putting trust to him that fast. That wasn't a good move, in my opinion.
Did Israel save the Druze in Syria? And maybe you can take us through that. What would have happened if they didn't show up? And how did the Druze in Israel feel at that time? Take us through that moment.
Well, I don't think that I can try to draw what happened in Syria to the average, Western person. You cannot conceive, that try to imagine that you are sitting in a Detroit and then the US Navy and the US Army somehow didn't like Detroit for a reason, and they came bombing with all their heavy weapons. So this was the feeling. Okay, and not only the proper army, you also brought all the gangs and all the bandits and all the people to come and participate in this heinous thing. So this is what happened in Sweden, a place who have 700,000 people. Most of them are peasants that barely, just to put things in perspective, like a doctor would live from $400 in a month. For a family, for example, you don't get free water or free electricity. Those things are rare. So you don't have that much. So it's a very rural place. And from eyewitness that I spoke with, you could see that the heavy machinery from the Syrian state that was going towards Sweden was 6 kilometers long, and estimates are that more than 100 people participated in the massacre. They went in the villages, they did so many things, and the thing is they were so proud of what they are doing. It is worth mentioning that Ibn Taymiyyah, who was the spiritual father of ISIS and Al-Qaeda, he's like a Muslim clerk, lived in the 1300s, if I'm not mistaken. He has a whole book dealing with what to do with the Druze. Long story short, they should be exterminated. And this is what those people tried to do. Until now, we have more than 120 missing women that are basically now sex slaves, that we don't know where they are and like, we know nothing about them. Small kids, small girls and women, and we don't know where they are. And it was so like witnessing it was so horrifying. I don't have the words. People who I never spoke with were sending me DMs on Instagram. Please save us. Where is your country? Where is the IDF? Please save us. They are doing this, they are doing that. People, I had people who were sitting in the Sweda hospital, that you could see the images from the security cameras, the whole hospital packed with people, with sick people, with wounded people, whatever that is, with staff. 2 days later, everybody who was in this hospital, more than 200, 300 people, were dead and thrown away in the streets. So the images were really, really bad thing to witness. But to be a bit positive about the whole thing and try to see the good in it, like a necessary evil, that if it wasn't so bad, then Israel wouldn't justify what it did. And what it did was bombing those convoys, and it stopped basically after we bombed Damascus, and it was really disgusting seeing the reaction of the world to it. I was invited to speak in South African radio day after, and they read the statement of the government condemning Israel for bombing Damascus, which was Damascus. It is like one thing to say, hey, I don't really know about it or what's happening, but to have this Pavlovian reaction of first let's blame the Jews, blame Israel, and then try to order the world to fit this narrative. So it was really disgusting seeing it. How the world treats us when it is such a clear case. The people who were killed, they're civilians. There was no army, no people who tried to retaliate, or just people who tried to protect themselves, to try to save their lives. People came, they drove 12 hours, 11 hours from all sectors of like all places in Syria just to participate. You had people on the streets trying to steer people where to go to participate in the massacre. Like a lot of good people were standing on the junctions and say, hey, a lot of people are getting lost. You shouldn't take left to the massacre. You should take right. I published these videos, and it went for days. And like, I have no words to say about it. It's just when you meet a pro-death society, this is how it looks like. And it's the same in Gaza, it's the same in Syria. It always leads to this place. And we, the people who don't accept that, should stand out and speak out about it and be firm about it and say never again. Unfortunately, this is like a Holocaust event, in my opinion, that my people went through, and we've been dying ever since because no Jews, no news. Nobody knows about it. Nobody speaks about it. When it's just a clear cut case, because the only sin that the Druze people did and that led to this whole thing, that after Bashar al-Assad regime fell, uh, they they came to Israel and did a pilgrimage. 300 people came here, visited Israel, saw the beauty of Israel, and were so excited, meeting relatives here and there. And just because of the audacity of admitting of the existence of Israel and wanting relationship with Israel, that is a punishment that we see, like that is a sin that was the punishment that we also.
What you said about the Islamists being so barbaric reminded me of what happened in the hospital. You said is exactly what happened in Iran when the IRGC was going around killing people in the streets. Then they would go to the hospital and kill the wounded there, among also the doctors and the nurses and everybody like that. So what you said happened in Syria also is happening in Iran. And like you said, it's just happening everywhere.
Just wanted to say it's not a bug, it's a feature. Once you put Islamists that gonna control a state with an Islamist state of mind, this is what you get. It's like, and the logic of it, it's very simple, because once you put this as a threshold, like this is the stepstone of the country, then you will always seem modest to the more extreme person. This is why the whole system goes towards extremism. Just to put in mind, Hamas came as the moderate way of Islam. They don't see themselves as ISIS. Like we said, Hamas is ISIS. They don't see themselves as ISIS. For them, ISIS is تكفيريين صاحبين الفكر المنحرف. Those people are so lost that their ideas became off. They went off the good way, the middle way of modesty. So, but for the people watching from the outside, you can't see the difference because there's no difference. You will always get more and more and more extreme. This is why we can see the trajectory of what's happening in Turkey. Once you put the Muslim Brotherhood in control, you end up with an ISIS state, no matter if you are Shia, in the case of Iran, it doesn't matter if you're Sunni, in the case of Syria, Turkey, or Gaza Strip. It's all the same faces of this diabolic ideology. No way to say it other. There's no way to go around this thing. It's crystal clear.
I want to ask you a final question with the remaining time that we have. We know that there is a lot of Jew hatred in the Arab world, but how deep does it go? We know that it's coming from the religion, obviously, but it's also penetrated into the political sphere, the culture. They teach their children as when they're young. And maybe you can speak a little bit about how deep it goes, because obviously you speak Arabic, you follow them, you know what's going on.
I give lectures, and in my lectures, I speak about anti-Semitism in the Arab-speaking world. And, take for example, Egypt, 110 million people, third of whom can't even read, and the other two-thirds who can read. The best-selling book is Mein Kampf, after the Quran. And the Quran as well treats Jewish people, with a lot of envy and a lot of things, even in the Hadith of how Muhammad treated the Jews and how in his life, he did all those things that we are speaking about. He looted and he killed, and there's until today the army in Syria says Khaybar Khaybar ya Yahud. Khaybar is the clan of the Jewish clan who was exterminated by Muhammad, right? So in my lectures, I say that anti-Semitism is so deep and it's so rooted in the Arab-speaking world that once you speak Arabic, you are like positive in anti-Semitism. Like you have the gene, you've been injected in anti-Semitic notions, no matter where you are, no matter what you do, because the Arabic culture today, I don't say that this is something that can't be changed or, it is something that constant, that this is the way things are. It was always going to be. I say that today it's so embedded in the Arabic speaking world that even the Arabic language contains anti Semitic notions, like we are soaked in anti Semitism. Unfortunately, this is the reality.
Oh. Khalifa, I want to thank you for your time, for your insights. I could go for another hour with you, but hopefully we'll have you back again. How can people follow you? And maybe you want to plug something that you're working on. You're more than welcome to.
Well, I just want to say it's been an honor. You have such a pleasant some person to speak with, and I really hope that the words that I spoke somehow resonates to people, and just give us a like and subscribe and share with your friends. My podcast named is Khalifa Shrugged, Mered Khalifim, like it's the rebellion of the Caliphs. By the way, when things happened, because my name is Khalifa and it's a Muslim name and it's like the Sultan name, someone like the king. So I used my name in the events to announce jihad against the jihadists, just to give them a treat of their own medicine, just to say. So you can find me on Telegram, on X, it's Khalifa Halabi. I do a lot of interesting stuff and make Arab people and Jewish people to speak. This is the platform that I offer, and it's amazing every time.
Incredible. Thank you. Wishing you the best of success in the future.
Thank you a lot. Bye-bye.
If you have a 401k or an IRA, please listen. Gold is at record highs. What many people don't know is this: you can move part of your retirement money legally and without tax penalties into physical gold you actually own. Alpha Omega Gold helps you do this through a gold IRA. Your gold is real. It is stored safely. It is in your name. Learn more at ao.gold/stand. Alpha Omega Gold is our sponsor, and they proudly stand with Israel.